And we were up at that cabin. That cabin is owned by him and his family. And we were up there and we're like, hey, this is a really cool place to film a movie. And as I keep on saying, it's kind of getting old, but basically it was like, all right, we have a very small budget, so how do we, take what we have available, apartments, offices, and all that, and utilize it in order to tell a cool story. I'm fascinated with the topic of friendship and murder, and putting bodies in suitcases, and it was anyway, yeah. So I mean, it's basically just like exploring all these issues within the resources that we had available, and that's how it came together initially.
So a very heartwarming film about friendship. That's what I got from that.
When you were actually shooting it, how much of it was, I guess, premeditated? Like you have an extreme close-up of the shoe and then it pans up to Frank, How much of that do you plan and how much of it is just off the cuff when you're actually on set?
Well, the whole movie started with that shot, coincidentally. No, I'm just kidding. It didn't. So basically, Tim and I went to a cinema bar in Culver City. If anyone is a local Culver City person, really cool bar, kind of a hole in the wall. And basically, what we did was use Army soldiers with the Canon being the camera, and basically walk through the whole screenplay and essentially create a shot list. And it was kind of like writing, where we would meet for months and months and months, whenever we were available, and just figure it out and kind of, try and get it as economic as possible, because a lot of these, we knew that going into each day that there was no way we were probably going to hit it. Luckily, we have Ekin Ergen, one of the best ADs I could possibly ask for. Where are you? There she is. Work with her, everyone. Stay on schedule, hire Ekin. And so, anyway, yeah, I'm sure I gave her the shot list, and she's like, good luck trying to achieve that. And basically, we would go back to our respective corners, and then, I did overheads, and so did Tim, and it was, then a second round of using Army figures in order to just, go in there with the best prepared battle plan that we possibly could, knowing each and every shot, and kind of labeling them in terms of importance. Tim, what do you think about Army figures?
I think they're a waste of petroleum. We should be putting that elsewhere. But what we also did was like the major scenes, especially the stuff in the latter half of the movie, at the cabins especially, we had access to those locations prior to shooting for years, and we went there and we basically just brought our DSLR with the zoom lens and figured out the focal length from the placement of camera. We basically did a storyboard with a DSLR of every single shot for all those scenes. So when we got to it, it was kind of like we knew what we were going to see, and, how tight it was going to be and all that. So that helped a lot.
We're like totally prepped for that one. Wow, that's very impressive. And now for the actors of the film, your performances were just so beautiful and so connected and multifaceted. Can you talk about your preparation a little bit?
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess the thing that me and John kind of talked about when we were in preparation was he gave me Camus' A Stranger to read, which was kind of this book about an existential literature, and he kept talking about that this story is essentially about a man who's gradually being corrupted. He gets his morals completely kind of obscured. And I guess existentialism kind of helps with that, helps you like see that nothing really is that important, and so he was kind of guiding me through, he was kind of like corrupting me as a human being essentially in order for me to get to that place, and it totally worked. But and also also in that book, in the last scene, it's a scene with the chaplain, and the character in the book, he doesn't feel one way or another about religion. He has a tough time with it. But I guess Frank, he kind of, because of the situation, it was, he cared a bit more about the chaplain. It's fantastic to have Marshal Teague here. I learned so much from working with him on set. The discipline and the work ethic that this man has. I think me and Micah were in agreement. We learned a lot. So I'll stop talking now.
Oh, I was preparing to go third. Gosh, I'm like halfway through my thoughts. Yeah, no preparation needed for that one. Yeah, I mean, that was what you said was very intelligent sounding. I don't know if mine's going to sound like that. My process is fairly simple. I mean, it's circumstantial based, which is when you have a character that's killed 3 people by the end of the story. It's hard to get into in your mind, but like a lot of whiskey and reading Crime and Punishment, which is the book that John gave me, and you can get there. We also rehearsed for a month, so I got to know John really well. I got to know how to work with John, and he was very open with dialogue and script. He kept us on task, but I felt like before every single scene, we were, even up to the point of shooting, we were still ripping it apart and making sure that we were revealing exactly what needed to be revealed in that scene and in that moment. So I guess the preparation, it was a journey all the way through, from getting the role, reading the script, and getting to that dark place, and then kind of just, I don't know, giving in, and then looking at this guy in the eyes, and he scares the shit out of me, by the way. Or he did then, he's a sweet guy. But, I mean, having such great people to work with, and everybody giving 100%, it was just fun. It was almost easy, so. Marshall?
I've been in this business nearly 40 years, and most actors will tell you, if you have in your career the opportunity to work with someone that truly believes in their product and what they have written and spent the time, like John, Tim, and all the people that are here that worked on this, you're lucky. Then if you have the opportunity to work with what I consider 2 thoroughbreds, and I say that sincerely, because my character was a man that had lost his faith, lived his life with faith. But he lost it, but because of his faith, he couldn't do anything about it, so he had to find a way out. These gentlemen came, I like to use the phrase, it's time to dance. John will tell you that. They came to the dance ready to dance. And from the first moment we started, I don't think we ever had a moment when we were ever out of it. So when I can say that you have that 15 minutes or a day or a moment when you don't know that there's anyone else in the room, I can't even tell you if there was someone else in the room except these 2 guys. That's magic. Thank you.
Thanks for coming again, seriously. The writing process, I think it took about 3 months or something to get the first draft, and it was essentially writing it all the way up until production. And it was essentially because it was like, hey, it'd be great to have a political rally in the beginning of the film to open this up, and the politician will be really discussing the material in this film, and we'll have 200 extras and everything. And Tim's like, I don't know if that's going to happen. Might want to rewrite that. So we did. And that kept on happening. So it'd be like, hey, do you think this is possible to do in a reasonable amount of time? No. All right, I guess I'll keep working on that then. So it's very much a back and forth between, I guess the ideal draft took 3 to 6 months, and then it was all about writing something, giving it to the team. They would kind of say, I don't know if this is realistic, and then just kind of back and forth. But going around, in terms of the casting, I think was with Billy DeModa. I was taking an acting class, the Actors Circle, really cool place, and then I gave that script to my acting teacher, and then she's like, oh, I kind of dig this. I know a casting director named Billy DeModa. And then Billy DeModa brought in all these fine gentlemen, and let's just say it was a pretty easy choice. I mean, it's for anyone that's gone through the casting process, it can be very torturous until that one shining star comes into the room, and then you're like, oh, yeah, well, it's not really a tough decision anymore. And that's exactly what happened between Micah, Marshall, and Laurence. It was just, I knew I had the guys to do it. They knocked it out of the park. Love you. Love you guys.
Woo!
For all of you out there that may have a dream about music, about film, about writing, about acting, if you have that dream, don't push it aside. Don't stop. Don't give up your idea. And don't stop telling the truth. When you look a person in the eye, these two gentlemen, for instance, you're not playing a character, you're living it. You crawl in the skin of that character and you create him. With these two gentlemen, it was really easy. But because we had the leadership, these two fine gentlemen over here, and all the people that worked in the cast, outstanding cast, the dream was easy. All they had to do is say, action.
I saw a couple other hands up. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. Yes. What was the camera on Road to the Well? What was your budget?
Can't say the budget, but the camera was the Alexa. Paying more than that? Is there like a number? No number. Alexa.
Yeah, we shot on the Alexa with super speed lenses because we couldn't afford big lights, so we went with super speeds and we shot it wide open pretty much the whole movie.
Did you have your hand up too, or no?
Raise your hands.
One more, come on.
Yes.
There it is.
I know her.
I didn't see everyone's films, so I can't speak to everyone up there, but Road to the Well, you guys, it was compelling and haunting. I'm a little bit traumatized. In the best way. In the best way. And it's like the story of the dragon at the bottom of the well and the honey. Is that an invention or is that from the mythology?
That was from, I studied philosophy in school, and that was from My Confession by Tolstoy. So basically this, Tolstoy went through a complete loss of his faith and decided to write this essay called My Confession, which is kind of, laying out his thoughts about why, what he believes in and how he struggles with meaninglessness in the world. But I think even that is from a myth or an allegory that Laurence shared with me involving, a tiger in a tree or something. It was kind of very coincidental where he got the script and he's like, oh yeah, well there's actually an alternative to that, which is, I'm going to butcher this, but basically, a man climbs a tree and there's a tiger down below and he starts licking apples or something. The dragon story was a lot cooler. So I went with that one.
Last question, yes.
In Road to the Well, it was a very serious and compelling story and set the mood for sure, but there were definitely some comedic and candid elements to it that seemed like candid moments. I want to know how much improvisation, thank you, or ad-libbing there was, or did you guys stick to what you were, doing?
For the cast.
Yeah, I just ripped the entire time. There was, I would say, we always would do it straight, to text, at least the first take. And as we did 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 takes, we just kind of really started to go off script and whatever was happening in the moment. I mean, we just kind of went with it. And I would say we did that in most scenes, I don't know how much of the improv you guys actually kept, but yeah, I would say there was an improvisational element to most scenes. What do you say?
Changing the context.
Yeah, exactly.
We never changed the context of the story.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about the specific
Found
moments.
routes.
But
Found routes to go. Is that fair?
yeah, found routes.
We found routes.
We ran our routes.
But sometimes it has to come from somewhere deep inside. And sometimes it just, would you agree, Laurence? It just happens. To be real honest with you, sometimes it just happens. And the director goes, cool, bring it. So,
Yeah.
Was that the tomb scene?
Tomb scene. Oh yes, that was the example I was trying to find in my mind. So that last scene between Laurence and I, That was never written on paper, ever typed, that scene. Like, it was completely different up until, I think John was just hammering his head against the wall, like, while we were up in Tahoe the entire time until we shot that scene. And it still wasn't right when we got to set. Is this okay to say this? Yeah. So John's like, pulled me and Laurence aside. He's like, guys, we gotta figure this out. So, I mean, we just like spitballed for about an hour, just until we had the dialogue we were gonna go with, and then that's what we ended up shooting. I mean, it was full on just collaboration. It was awesome.
On that scene, we were debating about it, like what should be said right up until action. About like, but it ended up being, after we shot it, one of my favorite scenes that we did. And it was the one I was probably the most nervous about, because none of us had any idea what was going to happen.
Well, I remember going up to the second AD, and I'm like, "Did you print that scene?" She's like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh, we completely rewrote it." And like, we're like in a car going to that set. I'm like, "You have to print that. We need to do it." And she's like, "What? I didn't even know we were doing a new scene." Because I think originally that the scene didn't really have Laurence saying much. It was more passive and kind of a more monologue-y. Yeah, and I really wasn't feeling that. Like, from the very beginning, I was like, I didn't want to be preachy. I didn't want to be like, "This is why you meddling kids," this is one of those types of scenes. But yeah, I mean, it's a phenomenal, I remember it was like, because that was shot in the middle of a wilderness up in, near Donner Lake, and it was just, it was Tim's lighting, with his whole crew, and getting it all prepped. I think it was just Laurence, Micah, and I just wandering around in the wilderness in the dark, and like 1 a.m, just being like, line by line, going through it again and again and again and again, trying to find the best way to do it. And it's just like such a thrilling time to see what we were all coming up with, knowing the pressure was on. So that's pretty cool.
Something else to say? No? Okay. All right, well, I think we do have to wrap it up.